Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Ghost, the American version, season 1 and 2. This show is hilarious, and I'm so glad I did not pass it up, because at first I was going to. I remember hearing about this show a while back, because it came out in 2021. And I remember hearing about it, but there was no trailer for it, no time. So I knew it was based off of an not American, but a UK version, like a British version that came out in 2019. I saw the trailer for that, and I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, just two people living in a house, and there's a bunch of ghosts. I don't care about that. But I kept it on the back of my mind whenever I got Paramount Plus, and so I just added it to my list. And so after I got done watching everything I wanted to watch on Paramount Plus, except for a few things, I started to I'm like, okay, maybe I'll give this show a try or something, right? And so I did. And holy crap, this is now my new favorite series. In the past, whatever, 5, 10 years, whatever stuff, because I really don't watch that much stuff on TV no more. This show is beyond hilarious, and I love the premise of it. Now, there are some people that say the British version is better than the American one, mostly just a bunch of British people saying that. Is that true? Well, I've only seen 2 episodes of the British one, and I'll let you know which one I think is better. However, Paramount Plus is now about to air the British version on November the 16th, which sucks for me because I'm pretty sure my Paramount Plus ends that time. If it doesn't, then I'll get to check it out. But some reason they have it listed as a brand new series for 2023, and it's not. But the British one lasted for 5 seasons, and it came out in 2019. And the only person I know who's in the British one is Charlotte Ritchie, and she was an extra in one of the Harry Potter movies. But I remember her from what's that nurse nun show? Called a Midwife. I remember her from that. And I remember it sucked because she has to lead that show, and I'm all like, why does everybody want to lead that show for? What's going on behind the scenes? But anyway, at the end of this video, I'll let you know, what I think of the British one and stuff. But I love the American one. And yes, sometimes that is true. Sometimes the original OG show is better, and the American versions sometimes are not that great. Like Filthy Rich. The New Zealand version is a million times better than the American one. And the American one just didn't even last past 1 season. And so, yeah, sometimes that is true, but sometimes it's not, because I'm loving this show. The first season is beyond hilarious and stuff. I love the different personalities and stuff like that. Season 2, I really enjoy season 2. There's a lot of funny moments in season 2, but there are some things in season 2 I just particularly don't like. They added in a bunch of new characters, which I don't mind if they're recurring, but I just want them to have one episode dedicated to that one new person and not multiple ones. Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And for me, I would rather spend my time watching this show with just the ghost that's in the house and the 2 living people, and that's it. Because it's hilarious and it's bonkers. Adding in more people can sometimes work and sometimes it can't. And with some of the new recurring characters, some of them just didn't work for me. So I would like it better if they just would have had 1 episode. But there's another problem I have with season 2. Season 2 does that modern day Hollywood thing of dumbing down men or making them look really creepy or nasty and stuff. And I'm so sick and tired of seeing that. And I've noticed it happened a lot in the second season. It happened a little in the first, but it was okay. Because, there were other females to blend out the wickedness and stuff. But in season 2, man, it was just kind of one idiot or one pervy person after another. And it just started to get kind of irritating. So, the American one is a CBS show, not a Paramount Plus show. It's on CBS. And I had no idea. But you can watch it on Paramount Plus. And for now, it has 2 seasons, but they did get renewed for a third. And with the writers and the actors strike now ending, there's no excuse for CBS to want to cancel this show. Plus, it ended on a huge cliffhanger. So the show was created by Joe Port and Joe Wiseman, and it stars that of Rose McIver. I could not believe that. I first saw her in Power Rangers RPM as the Yellow Ranger. But before I saw her in that, I actually saw her in Xena. She was the little girl in Xena where Xena possessed her body and she started doing all this cool like stuff. That's when I first saw her back in the 90s. Then Power Rangers, and then at some point, Legend of the Seeker, where she had one guest role. And her acting has really come a long way. And, like, she's probably one of the, actually, she probably is the most famous person to ever be a Power Ranger. She's from New Zealand, and most of the New Zealand cast is pretty famous as well. Like, there are other people who appeared in Power Rangers that are really famous over in New Zealand and Australia, but they never really played like, a Power Ranger. They just played like other characters in the show. But she's the only one who actually played like a Power Ranger. And yeah, like, most people might not recognize her name or anything, but she is the most famous in terms of entertainment in Hollywood and everything. This is now the second show she's had where she's the lead character. And no other Power Ranger person can really say that. Cause like, she went on to guest star in Once Upon a Time as Tinkerbell of all people. And she had a pretty big story arc in that in the third season. Then she went on to the CW to have her own show called iZombie, a woman who somehow gets infected by a zombie and has to eat brains to survive, but she's a good person. I never really got into that show. I tried to watch and it was very CW-ish. Even the action was very CW-ish. So I just kind of like turned it off. But now she's starring in this show, this comedy series. And I had no idea, like, she's really funny. She's really adaptable and everything. And her American accent has come like even further than her acting career, because it's so much better now. Like in the past, you could hear it, but you can hear a little Kiwi in it. Now, I don't hear no Kiwi whatsoever. And I'm just so shocked and amazed and just proud, man. Like, she has really come a long way. And so basically, she inherited a house from her uncle. And she's married, like, she plays the character of Sam. And she's married to Jay. Now, Jay, I had no idea who this man was when I first saw him. But when I looked him up, I couldn't believe he was from the earlier Pitch Perfect movies. He's like the Indian dude who sings and rap. I can't pronounce his name. Ute Karsh, Amp Boulder or something like that, a Boker or something like that. He plays her husband. And so she's just a very friendly, caring, sweet kind of person. And he's very sarcastic and super nerdy into Star Wars and Dungeons of Dragon. And so these two characters are based off the UK version. Now, when it comes to Ghost, what is Ghost exactly about, you're wondering? Well, Ghost is about this. Pretty much when you die, you either go to heaven, hell, or purgatory. If you're in purgatory, you get to stay on earth, but you can't go far. Wherever you died, that is where you're contained to. There's like a ghost barrier around the property. So the house she inherited, tons of people have lived there, died there, and the house has been turned into so many different things. It's been a home. It's been like, at one point, it turned into like a night lounge type thing with somebody owning the house. All kind of different stuff. So there are tons of ghosts that are literally stuck there and can't leave. And so no living person can see ghosts except for kids. Sometimes a kid can see and hear a ghost, but they don't really remember as they get older. And so like they move into this home and the ghosts don't want nobody living there this time because they want to turn the place into like a bed and breakfast, and the ghosts don't want that. They don't want tons of people coming in and out and all this other crap because it's like their place. Some have lived there for like 60 years, 100, 500, and even 1,000 and thousands of years old. There's like tons of different ghosts. There's a Norse Viking, there's a Native American man, there's a woman from the Victorian era, there's a woman from the 1920s who's a lounge singer. There's a dude who's from like about 60 years ago or so. He's kind of like, a travel agent who is like, what is it? Like, he was doing like Boy Scouts and got shot with an arrow in the neck. There's a hippie who's there. There's just a regular horny dude who's there who has no pants. And then there's a decapitated dude that's from like the 1960s, but he's barely in the show because I guess they can't afford to have him decapitated and stuff. And it's also a bunch of other ones. There's like ghosts that live in the basement. They are the cholera ghosts who died of cholera. There are the British Revolutionary ghosts. There's 3 of them who live in like a shed. There's like a teenage girl who lives in the attic and sleeps and only is allowed to walk the earth for like one day if she's like woken up. And so like, but she's like, it's weird. She's 70 or 60 something years, 50 something years old, but she has the body of a teenager, but she's played by an adult, which is kind of weird. I wish they would have went with an actual teenager. Then there is like, the Victorian lady, her husband's stuck in like a little bunker secret type place for some. But then there's the ghost rules. So like I said before, there's a barrier. They can't pass the property. If they try, they just turn right back around and come on back. Also, like, they have to wear the exact same clothes that they wore when they died, and they can't change it up. And so like that's why that one dude walks around with no pants. And so like if you take something off your body and say give it to somebody else, like this one, the Native American dude has a feather, he took it off and gave it to somebody, it automatically comes right back to him. Also, they can't die. You can chop them in half, you can chop their arm off, and it just reappears back. And so, like, they can't touch nothing, but they can sit down on things and they can lie in beds and they can walk like the ground. And so, like, some ghosts have ghost powers and others don't. Like Thor, yeah, there's one named Thor in here, Thorfinn. He's the Norse like Viking dude. He has the ability to control like lights and electricity. Basically, he can turn lights on and off, and if somebody dies, he can fibrillate their body. But using a power really, really hurts, so it takes a lot out of them. Trevor, the one who doesn't wear pants, he can only touch things with his index finger. He can't grab onto nothing, so he can type on like a computer or write something on like a mirror that's like fogged up or something like that. Um, Trying to think. Hetty, we don't know if she has a power or not. She told her husband to go to hell, and he did. Portal opened up and sucked them in. But when she tried it on Trevor, it didn't work. So I don't think that was her. I think what it was is that he said he's not going to repent for none of the bad stuff he did, so he just went down there. Then there is the whole walking through ghost. If a living person walks through a ghost, basically their body turns into like this mist, gas, smoke type thing, but it hurts them so much. Like it is torturous to them to where they scream and shake and all this other stuff. But there are some ghosts that if a person walks past them, there's a certain ability that will happen, like a power. So like Flower, her real name is Susan. She's the hippie ghost, and she was so stoned before she died that if you walk through her, you're high, and the effects don't last for too long. Isaac, if you walk past him, there's like a stinky like smell in the air. Trying to think. Oh, the dude who's married to Hetty, if you walk past him, or through him, I should say, then you get like super horny and everything. And so it's just like, not all ghosts have powers and some don't. And there are ghosts everywhere. It's weird when you watch this show, you see the living people, you see no ghosts around, but then the camera does it to where there are ghosts. And there's just tons of ghosts just standing around the living people, just looking at them, spying on them, and all this other crap. It makes you wonder if that's how the real afterlife is. And there's just a bunch of people in your home just staring at you and stuff. And as you're doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be weird, man. And so ghosts, because they can't touch nothing, the only entertainment they have is to spy on people. And whenever a person turns on the TV, they get to watch TV and everything. But one of the things they love to do more than anything is smell stuff. They can't eat, but they can smell. And they love smelling things. Like, they always talk about how it's lunchtime or it's dinner time, they're going to get some good smells in. And that's just a weird thing to think about that you take for granted. Like, you eat your food, but how often do you smell it? You know what I'm saying? And so it really makes you think, and I like that aspect of it. There's also car ghosts. A car ghost, if you die in a car, like Sazzy's girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend now, like, you are confined to the car and you can only walk 5 spaces beyond the car before you turn back around. And if you die with something in your hand or something on you, you get to take that in the afterlife too. So like this one dude's watch, the car keys, a sword and the axe and the shield, stuff like that. And so like the car ghost, who's that one Asian lady from Superstore. They're gonna be two different Superstore stars that appear on this, but only one has a recurring character until she's gone. And so like she talking about how she loves driving around with like the person who owns the car, and she gets a lot of good smells in, and it's just one of those things you take for granted. Then there is sucking off. It's not what you think. Okay, basically like this. If you ain't going to the 2 H's, then you're in purgatory. And only when you learn some type of self-reflection and you let go of the past and you and all this other crap, then you get ascended into heaven. Or if you don't want to learn like a life lesson, and you're just really mean and really evil and do a bunch of like bad crap, then you go down in the bottom place. But here's the thing. The first time somebody went down there, they didn't even know nobody could do that, right? So most of the people just like ascend. So Hetty, she is one of the main owners of the house from many years ago, a couple of hundred. And so a lot of her descendants have lived in this home, right? And so it starts off with this old lady about to die, and then she dies and turns to a ghost. All the ghosts always hover around people, and they're all like, it's okay, this is like gonna be a weird feeling, but we will help you through this. But then all of a sudden a white light shines on her and she gets like sucked off into heaven. And so because she has nothing left on like the earthly plane that she regrets about or anything like that, so she can go on to heaven. And so they get kind of upset. They're like, because they want to leave and go to heaven because, like, they're holding something back, and that's why they're stuck on the earth. And they call it sucking off as you're getting sucked up into the sky. And it's even funnier when Sam says it around a living person and they don't know what the world she's talking about, because Sam can actually see the ghost. Why? Well, Samantha is the great niece of Hetty, and she's the one inherited the house. And when she did, she could not see ghosts. But the ghosts didn't want her there, and so they tried to like haunt the place. Oh, by the way, Alberta, the singer, people can hear her voice if she sings. It's like woo, like that, you know what I'm saying? Or like an actual like song, whatever. And because Alberta can do that, she can talk to Alexa, the electronic device. And so like Trevor, the one with no pants, he pushed over a vase just to try to like spook her. But she ended up tripping on the vase and she fell down the stairs and was in a coma. When she came out the coma and went home, she started to see all the ghosts in the house and she started freaking out. And they freaked out because no living person can see them except for little kids. And that's very rare. So, like, whatchamacallit? So at first she's freaked out, but then she's kind of like cool with it. And her and the ghost have a really strong bond. She thinks of them as like her friends and her family, and she will do anything for them. Now, Jay cannot see ghosts. At first, he didn't believe her until they did their ghostly stuff to make him see certain things, like pushing stuff over and stuff like that. And so he is kind of annoyed he can't see the ghost, and it makes for some good comedic timing when, like, he thinks that, he's standing in one direction trying to talk to one, but is in a different direction, and just all kind of stuff. But her and the ghost have formed a bond. They help her out and Jay a lot because they turned into a B&B, a bed, I can't talk, a bed and a breakfast. And I'm about to say bread. And so they get to spy on the guests to see if, like, they're comfortable and happy or they do something shady or whatever. And, it really helps her in her day-to-day life, especially when there are things she don't know the answer to, and they do. And they help her out in her job a lot because they quit their jobs to live out there. And we found out in the second season, Jay is actually a really good cook and misses the city because, he had a job there. But Samantha can't go to the city no more because everywhere she goes, she sees ghosts. So now that they're out in the countryside, she don't see that many. But if she was to go into a big city where people die all the time, it would drive her nuts. So he has to forego his happiness just so she doesn't go like nutty and stuff like that. And her and Jay are a really great couple. They never argue and yell and shout and fight. They will get irritated with each other, but they never shout. And that's the thing about Samantha. Samantha rarely raises her voice. And so, like, she's just like an overall nice, caring person. And it's rare when she does shout and yell at the ghosts because sometimes they do things that piss her off. Like, three of them didn't know about Nigerian scams. So Trevor, who's able to point at things, just gets on her computer and gives him like $1,000. But now you have like fraud alert and everything. So she stopped it, but she still yelled at him. But Trevor should have known that he died in like what, sometime in the 90s or early 2000s or something. And so, like, he should know about that stuff. Now, it is weird when it comes to the ghosts because there's a lot of things, since they watch TV, they should be able to pick up on, but they still act like they're in their time and where they don't know that much. But it's weird and stuff. And so, like, we do get to meet some other ghosts that, like, are from other buildings and stuff, but it's rare. But back to her niceness, she even bought them Christmas gift. They can't touch it or hold it, but she buys them things, and that's how much she loves them. And because she has friends that are living, but they live in another like state, and they weren't that great friends to begin with and everything. And so, like, the ghosts are really just like her only friends. And Jay, who's like a super nerd, like, he doesn't have that many friends either. And so, like, it's just really cool, like, seeing them help each other. And that's the premise of the show. Something will happen. Like, say there'll be like a travel, not travel, like, say like a food critic or a person who critics like hotels and bed and breakfast. So ghosts have to like spy and see, like, what they like and what they don't like to help her out. Or say like a neighbor doesn't want them to build something in their own yard because the homeowner like crap they had like a neighborhood would have that one person living in the neighborhood be all like, oh no, you have to cut that tree down, or oh no, you can't have that ornament in your yard, and blah blah blah. I hate people like that. Who would allow somebody to do some crap like that? So they help her out with that. And so, like, at the end of the first season, Jay has a bit of a tumble, and like, It ends on a cliffhanger. Is he dead? Will he be able to see ghosts? Well, they set it up so cool in the premiere of the second season to where when he wakes up, he really wants to see if he can see ghosts. But Samantha kind of wants to keep that to like her own thing, you know? And so like he's running around the house and him and Pete the ghost are like really great friends because they have a lot in common. Even to the point where Pete's like obsessed with Jay and is all like, Samantha, you don't deserve him and everything. And I can't wait till Jay dies so we can be best buds in the afterlife. And so Pete looks different because he has like a Boy Scout uniform. And so Jay looks at him, is all like, Pete, oh my God, I can see you. And so you think Jay can see ghosts, but there's an actual Boy Scout dude in the house for a delivery and stuff. So it makes for a really funny encounter. So Jay, no, can't see no ghosts. Also, they help the ghosts like interact with some of their relatives that died. Like Pete had like a wife and a daughter, and his wife remarried to that of his best friend. He was okay until he found out they had an affair for many of years. Now Pete's a really nice guy who doesn't shout or yell. He starts to change and have like a backbone in like second season, but he's the most friendly out of all the ghosts. He's kind of like Casper. And so, like, he's really pissed that his wife cheated on him. And when you see flashbacks of him and his wife, you see that he actually used to yell a lot because he can't stand her. But he loves his daughter to death. And so, like, um, let's see, let's talk about some other ghosts. There's Flower. She's the hippie. And she was in the cult. How she died, because Pete, oh, he died by the arrow on his neck. He didn't give the safety lessons of how not to use a bow and arrow, so he handed them out, and then he got shot by one and died. Anyway, Flower, she was in the cult, and she robbed the bank before, like, you know, she died and everything. And so when she was out with her boyfriend, she saw a bear. And so stoned and high, she wanted to hug the bear. Well, it ripped her and killed her, and now she's the ghost. Her thing is, because she was so high, she forgets things a lot. And I mean a lot, within seconds. She can't even tell who's Jay and who's Sam, even though one's a man and one's a woman. Like, that's how stoned out she is. And so, like, it turns out that she has a crush on Thor when she thought he was gonna ascend, and so she tells him she loves him. She's been there for about 60 years, and so and he's been there. He's a Viking, so he's been there a lot longer. And so when he doesn't ascend, she's all like, "Oh, it was just a heat of the moment, and let's just never talk about this again." So he dwells on it in the second season a lot. But in the first season, she's all like, look, man, like I'm a hippie and I'm in a cult. Like we don't do like, you know, when we date, we don't do couple thing. We do like a truffle type thing. So she wants a third. They try to get Pete to be it, but then at some point it just doesn't happen. But then in the second season, we find out why when they go on a date together. It's because she was in love with this one guy and he died. And ever since then, she never wanted to be hurt. So she started doing the truffle thing. Thor, he's a bombastic, like, Viking dude who's really loud and stuff. And I can't believe who he's played by. Devin um, Chandler Long and everything. I think that's his name. Yeah, Devin Chandler Long, and he plays Flex Metallo on Doom Patrol. I didn't recognize him because of the beard, but I recognized his voice. And so he's just this big, bombastic, like lovable Viking dude who always shouts and everything like that. And like he hates the Danish to death because he's a Viking. And how he died was he was walking along the ground and he wore like a metal helmet. There was a storm, lightning hit the helmet, and he died. His other Norse buddies did not give him no burial funeral, and they just left his body there. Turns out his son grew up and came looking for him and ended up in the house next door. And so, because of Sam, now Thor and his son are able to yell at each other through the window because they can't pass like the property line. And so, at first, he's disappointed in his son because his son married a Danish woman. But like he learned to like accept his son for whoever he is until his son gets picked on by a woman in that a ghost woman in that house. But it turns out she just had a crush on him. He's all like in love with Flower, and like he thinks Pete is like a wimp, and he loves chopping off Pete's limbs whenever Pete acts stupid to him. But then he gets banished for 3 days every time he does that. Trevor is just a horny man from the 90s. When he was in his teens, him and his girlfriend must have lived, or him and his family must have lived on that property or something. Because when they was teenagers, she died. By like a person with a chainsaw. They was making out on prom night. So her prom night sucked. And so she's a very vengeful ghost and everything. She's always trying to cause like harm and pain to like the other ghosts and everything. But she later gets her happy ending when she's able to find another teenage ghost. She's in love with Trevor, but he don't want her because she's in a teenage body, even though she's about 50 something. And so is he. But anyways, and she has to sleep all year round until she's only allowed to walk the earth one day when she's woken up. And when she does wake up, she's really grouchy. And she just hates Sam, only because Trevor has a crush on Sam. Now, Trevor is the horny one and everything with no pants. The reason why he has no pants, he lied to everybody saying he slept with like a stripper or the taxi driver, something like that. And then he died from an overdose. He did die of an overdose, but he gave his pants and his boxers to like a colleague of his because he was about to be hazed, and the colleague would have to run around outside naked and all the way back home, and he didn't want that, so he gave the dude his pants and boxers, so and bought him like a taxi cab and everything. Then he died of the overdose. He's the one who can point with the index finger, and like, he's just super duper horny and everything. And so he has a huge crush on Sam, but then he later ends up dating Hetty, her ancient like aunt and everything. But like, even though he's super horny and he's always like, he created a fake dating profile and befriended this one woman. That one woman turned out to be Jay's sister. And so like, so they had to reveal to her, like, Trevor's not alive, he's dead. So she now knows about ghosts. And when she comes back in the second season, she's still in love with Trevor, even though she has her best friend hanging out with her. Her best friend's a dork, and she doesn't want him. But then her and Trevor and all of them start thinking of something. If Trevor can possess that guy's body, then he can sleep with Jay's sister. See, possessing somebody is very hard. It's only happened 3 times, twice on screen and 1 off screen. Basically, if a living person is electrocuted, their body bounces back, and if it falls into a ghost, the ghost possesses them. And so like, that's what happened with Jay when Hetty went in his body. But when she drove through the barrier, she fell on out. So, and also the same thing what happened to Sam and Thor. So he's literally trying to do that, but then the dude actually get electrocuted and dies. And cause see, what happened was this: Thor hates Christmas. I forget why. He ended up possessing Sam's body by accident. And so the other ghosts are like, yo, just let him stay in there. He finally gets to eat food. But when she plays him, she does a good job with the voice, but not the facial expressions. She plays him like a dumb caveman instead of a Viking, because Thor doesn't look stupid like a caveman. He's just like a barbarian type person. Now, this could be a nod to the British version, because Thor counterpart in the British version is a caveman. And so like, Thor finds out the meaning of Christmas, and then they realize, you know what, this is never going to happen with Trevor and the sister. So she ends up falling in love with her best friend, even though she thought he was like a huge dork. And so like, Hetty, she is like, back in the Victorian era, she's like back when women had no voting rights. She doesn't like feminists. She's very uptight like that, but she learns later on to like, be a more independent woman, and she's very rude and condescending, and she like basically she thinks she's the head of the house even though there's been dead people before her, and so she likes to bark all the rules and everything. She's really hilarious, especially when she learns out that she can get the big O from a dryer. But she starts sleeping with Trevor, and she doesn't want nobody to know it because she's ashamed by that. And so he calls it off with her because he's all like, look, man, you act like you don't like me and everything. You're ashamed of me, so I'm not doing this and everything. Her best friend in the house is that of Isaac. Isaac is a closeted gay man who fought in the Revolutionary War. And the man he ended up killing was a man he had a crush on that was British and stuff. And so they live in the house, but Isaac forbids any of the ghosts from the British side coming in the house. They have to stay in the shed. And so, but later on, he allows Nigel to come in the house. And so, like, Nigel becomes like a recurring character in the second season who has a very boring personality, but he hates Hetty and everything, and Hetty doesn't like him. But like they later get to the point where Isaac proposes to him because Nigel's all like, "Look, man, you won't let me sleep in your room. You have a single bed. We shouldn't even be doing this. Plus, I like this other ghost from like the British side, and so but it's up and down with them in their relationship." And like, they later like form like, an actual real relationship where they're gonna move in together and like, all this other stuff to where they get proposed to and stuff. Also, Isaac hates Alexander Hamilton and everything. He doesn't like Benjamin Franklin because Benjamin wouldn't let him join the frat. And he doesn't like Samuel Adams either. Let's see who else. Saz. I can't pronounce his real name. He's a Native American. I forget the tribe he's from. Lappy or something like that. You think he would be your stereotypical Native American, but he's not. He's actually very modern and very sassy and everything, and with like quips and like one-liners, and he just always insulting people. He likes the idea of like just seeing people kind of like suffer and argue and stuff like that, and he loves smelling pepperoni. Well, he ends up dating the car ghost until she's no longer there, and I don't know, it's like it's weird. It's like he's one of the most funniest characters there, but it's because he's not who you think he. You think he's so stereotypical, but he's not. He's just about as modern as they. There's Crash. He's based on that one UK ghost, but because it's a TV budget, they probably can't do the whole decapitation thing. So, like, we really don't know much about him. I forget how he died, but his head got like chopped off and stuff. And basically, he's played by three different actors. In the first season and the second season, his head actors played by two different people. In the first season, he doesn't say nothing. He just like walks around in one episode or two episodes. And then the second season, he actually gets an episode dedicated to him. And then the person playing his body is a completely different actor. Basically, he's kind of like your 1950s James Dean bad boy type. Once made out with like flour back in the day, and somebody took his head off and hid it in a tree. So there's a big mystery as to who did that. And it turned out to be like, one of the ghosts that I kind of suspected, but, because they kind of made it a little obvious. Then there's Alberta. And so she is the only ghost who she knows she's dead, but she doesn't know how she died. And because she thinks she was murdered. Now, with all the ghosts, we know how they died. Like the cholera ghosts. They're just a bunch of people who live in the basement and they died of cholera. And they stay in the basement because the other ghosts don't want them around them because they look disgusting looking. And so, like, with say like Sass and Hetty, we don't know how they died. They didn't die of old age because they're pretty young looking. And so with Alberta, she thinks she was murdered. Now she's really bubbly and like, she loves talking about herself and how famous she used to be and all this other stuff. But then the second season, we learn a whole lot more about her. The whole second season is about who murdered her back in the day. So every couple of episodes, they'll talk about like her murder, then they'll bop around to like maybe like 5 episodes and talk about her murder again and a couple more stuff like that. And so like Pete has a huge crush on her, massive huge, but she likes bad boys, and every time he keeps trying to make a move on her, she rejects him in the most hilarious way, especially when he tries to kiss her and she face palms him. And so like she doesn't know who murdered her, and then she meets one of her relatives and stuff, but of course they can't see her. And so that's one thing about this show, is that a lot of people get to see their relatives as they get older and stuff, so we get to know about their lineage. And so with her, she thinks that okay, either this one singer betrayed her and tried to kill her because she screwed that woman out of like a singing gig and stuff like that, because Alberta used to stab people in the back, not physically, but like the other way, like she'll take their jobs and stuff like that. She's also wearing a wig, we found out towards the end of the second season. And so like it wasn't her friend that that killed her. And so all fingers pointed to Al Capone. That was just a little bit of a stretch. But it turns out, like, see, she drunk some moonshine that had strychnine in it. And Al Capone is the one who made the mixture. But he was going to kill himself because Alberta rejected him and he couldn't take it. That was just weird. I would have just came up with a new character instead of Al Capone. But in a way, it wasn't him because somebody stopped him, her sister. So then she thought, okay, everybody's thinking, okay, it has to be your sister. Because there was a note left in the wall talking about, like, we have to, like, get rid of Alberta and stuff like that. And so it wasn't the sister. And then so there's this big mystery episode, and you think you know who it is, and Jay's trying to figure it out, and everybody's trying to figure it out. But then Hetty just reveals, I know who killed you. I've known for 100 years. I just kept my mouth shut. And it's just kind of like, oh, that took away from the mystery of it all and the detective work. So it turns out it was Hetty's son. So when Hetty was a ghost and her son was living and everything, her son had an affair with Alberta's boyfriend. And so they was like closeted and secreted. So he wanted to get rid of Alberta. So he's the one who gave her the moonshine with strychnine in it. And of course, Alberta is pissed because Hetty knew about this for 100 years and did not say nothing. And so it causes a rift in their friendship. I think that's all the ghosts I can think about. That at least live in the house and stuff. Now let's get on to season 2 and why I particularly didn't love it as much as season 1. Season 2 kept making men look inferior a lot, an extreme lot. Yeah, there was still some flaws in the females, but it's one of those, okay, they can overcome their flaws, whereas the men just look like spineless wimps or like really pervy, nasty people. And it was a lot in the second season. And yeah, there was a little bit of it in the first, but like I said before, there was still some good qualities about those guys in the first season that didn't make them seem all that bad. Now, on the other hand, it is just the complete opposite. There's 2 people I have not mentioned yet. One is Todd, and one is Hetty's former husband. Todd is obsessed with Alberta. He is investigating her murder, and he created a podcast with that of Sam. And he's so obsessed with Alberta that he has a piece of her toenail he bought off eBay, and he wants to clone her. He even came up with a rendering of what their 2 kids would look like if they were to have kids. Then he fell in love with that of Alberta's ancestor, who kind of resembles her a little bit. And when he gets like, as they call it, COD blocked, because this is CBS after all, and they can't say the other word. Because that's what somebody thinks. They're talking about like codfish. And so they prevent him from dating her by revealing that he still lives with his mom and he's like 40 something years old. And it's just kind of like, we did not know that about him in the first season. We knew he was creepy and all everything. But this just takes it up to another level where they have to bash men for living at home for whatever reason. But they never bash women like that. Have you noticed, like, when a woman has to come live with her parents because they have like kids or she has kids and like whatever reason she has to move back home with her parents, you never hear nobody shame a woman, but they always shame the man and talking about, oh, he just lives in the basement and and blah 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 and stuff like that. So they really went hard on that about him living on his parents and made him even creepier that he hit on like the ancestor and talking about this is the longest relationship I've ever had in 7 years, but him and her never had a relationship and they literally met for a few minutes, liked each other until it was all ruined. And it shows that he's creepy, possessive, and just all out weird, and he lives at home with his mother. Then there is Hetty's husband. He was a cheater on her, or he cheated on her back in the day. He's rude to his servants. He used to blank his servants and all kind of stuff. He was really rude in the first season, but like he was trapped in like a vault for hundreds of years and stuff, because down in the vault it's weird. The brick is made out of some type of material the ghost cannot pass through. So he was trapped down there. And if they try to walk through it, they just bump into it like a person will bump into a wall. And so he doesn't like the idea of this becoming like a bed and breakfast, same way with the other ghosts and everything. And he realizes he can make people horny. He just starts walking through everybody and is all like, I'm gonna ruin your business and I don't repent for anything. And then he went down into the underworld. In the second season, he comes up with like a contract talking about like, I've changed my ways and like if I can redeem myself, they'll let me stay in this house permanently. But Hetty has to sign it. She has to actually forgive me. And so like she's trying to sign the paper, but like, she doesn't forgive him. So then she finally forgives him, but it turns out to be like a trap. And so like before she could she does sign the paper, but he tricked them even more. See, he had Pete sign over his soul to him. See, and down below, you can actually email people above for some bizarre reason. And so he lied and said that Pete's daughter or grandson is like hurt and has to go to the hospital and could die. And so he's all like, look, Pete, I can save your grandson's life. I can change my soul for his, but you have to give me yours. So Pete shakes his hand. He's like, ha ha, I tricked you and everything. Like, now you have to go down in the underworld and I get to stay up here. And it's just an evil thing he did. And then so in order to get Pete's soul back, Hetty had to sign the paper and was forced to forgive him for all the bad stuff he did. And then he realizes he don't want to stay on Earth because he just can't stand all these people and everything else. And it was funner down below. But then when the portal opens up, he grabs Pete and all like, I don't care, you're coming with me anyways, and stuff like that. So Pete literally had to fight him off and push him down in there. Why did they have to go so hard on making him evil? Then there is Thor's son. Thor's son is a Viking as well, and he's getting bullied by a 1960s woman. The woman is the mother of the people who now own that house. And she's just bullying the crap out of him. And he's taking it, talking about, I don't know what to do, and I'm so scared, and blah, 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 stuff like that. And Thor's all like, you must fight her. And everything. And you need to stop being a wimp. And so then it turns out the only reason why she bullied him because she had a crush on him. And I'm just like, they made him look like a weakling. Then there is Jay. Jay takes all this crap from like Sam and the ghost. Him and her were supposed to have a Valentine's Day celebration, but it got postponed twice. Why? Because Thor and Flower wanted to go on a date, and Jay has to cook the food so they can smell it. And he's all like, so let me get this straight. I'm gonna cook a feast For food I can't even eat just so they can smell it and ruin my Valentine's Day. But then the food is Viking food, so it's like the organs of like animals, like a cod piece, testicles, like all kind of nasty, gross stuff. And so Thor's all, and of course they can't eat it, and so she don't know. Flower don't know what it tastes like, and Thor, it's been thousands of years since he had it. So then he's all like, Sam, you should eat this food and describe it to me so I can explain it. And Sam's all like, what was that, Thor? You want Jade to try the food? And he's all like, it doesn't matter which one does it. And she's all like, what? Women are not allowed to try Viking food? How sexist. And then she forces Jade to eat the food. And he has to do it twice. Then there's the whole him missing his job as like a professional chef and moving to the countryside where he doesn't know nobody. He's always getting picked on because he's a super nerd, and he's made to look like a weakling male husband who just takes it all the time. And that's what he does. He takes it all the time. And even when he bought like a bunch of like sneakers, because he loves those sneakers, he had to hide them from her. And then when she found out, he made an excuse saying, oh, it was his friend's sneakers and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, what the world, man? Then when they try to find Isaac a new boyfriend because Nigel dumped him for like the millionth time, um, there's like this gay ghost in the house that Thor's son lives in. And that gay ghost is really, really pervy to the point where it grosses out that of Isaac. And I'm just like, why'd you have to make him a perv? Then Sam's uncle, who she inherited the house from, because there's an episode at the end about the heir and a woman pretending to be like his daughter and stuff. They had to go to the strip club where he died and everything. And he's just a horny, pervy man. And he's just obnoxious and disgusting. And I'm just like, why is he written this way? And then, like, there's Saz. He ends up lying because, like, there's a tree. The new neighbors, who's like a lesbian couple, they want the tree cut down. And so the ghosts, they just like the tree just for the sake of it's the tree. But Saz is all like, no, has like roots to my Native American people and it's sacred and all this other stuff. Turns out he lied. Why the tree is important? Because every time this one, when he was alive, this one Native American lady said hey to him, he would carve that like a tally mark in the tree. So he lied to her saying those tally marks are ancient Native American language and all this other stuff, and had Sam argue with a real living Native American man who's all like, look, this is my people, this is my culture, this doesn't mean what you say it is. And he lied just so he can keep that tree for sentimental value and everything. Then, like, when he dates the Cargo's girl, she lies about how she died. It ends up getting like her owner of the car, the assistant of Sam and Jay, fired. But then it's like he sold the car. So Saz is all like, buy the car for me. So Sam's all like, look, we need to buy this car for Saz so he can have his girlfriend. And Jay's all like, we have a car, we just bought this car. I'm not buying a used car. And more importantly, the guy is paying double for what he paid for it. And I'm not doing that. And Sam's all like, I'll take the car. And Jay just goes along with that. Only for, Saz to get jealous of like the car ghost when she lives with other male ghosts. That she has to like, go and visit because she's in the car. And it's just like he lives with females, but she don't get jealous of that. So they started making Saz look worse than what he is. And then add on to that, he likes seeing people depressed and moody and argue and everything like that. And it's just like, why are they assassinating his character? Then there is the assistant who overstayed his welcome in the show. He's about in 4 episodes. He's just this wimp of a little man and everything. He's quiet. He has this nerdy demeanor to him. Every time he's upset, he calls his mommy and everything. And like, it's just so awkward having him on the show because he's a spineless little man. And every time he gets fired, he's at the point where he wants to cry or he calls his mom and everything. And he actually discovers the house is haunted because Trevor started using his keyboard and he has the place wired with video cameras and the keys were moving on their own. So he brings a ghost trap, which turns out to be real and sucks in three ghosts and is about to eviscerate them. And so, somebody else. Oh, then there's Nigel. Nigel had just a small recurring role in the first season, but then he gets bumped up to like a bigger recurring role where he's in literally every episode. And I don't like it when the show adds new people. I like it when they pop in for like one or two episodes and then leave. But he stayed for every episode. He is very super stiff British. He has no personality to him, and he is Isaac's boyfriend and stuff. When him and Isaac broke up for a day, he made out with another ghost in like his shed. His enjoyment is watching ants walk along and everything. But then what's even worse is that kind of like when him and Isaac started dating, it made Hetty jealous because she used to hang out with Isaac a lot. And so they wanted to have like a tea party type thing, right? And so he invited her last, and that made her super jealous. He even invited one of the cholera ghosts. And so she decided to get back at him because Trevor gave her this idea is throw a party and of your own on the same day they're having theirs. So everybody comes to yours and not theirs. And that's what happened. So it makes Trevor look bad for giving her that idea. And then it's like, so it happens, but then, they had this big discussion and they make up. Only to turn out for a long pause. I'm like, something's going to happen with this long pause because Isaac's out the room. So then both Hetty and Nigel turn to each other and they hate each other and stuff. And, Nigel just turns like mean and evil. We knew Hetty was like selfish and stuff, but then Nigel, it was like weird seeing him do this. So then when he found out that Hetty and Trevor are like doing it, he blackmails them to get Trevor's room so Trevor can sleep in the library on like a chair and he can have Trevor's bed and everything. And I'm just like, he resorted to like blackmail and everything. And, it's weird. And then there's the whole Isaac's book and Sam, because Sam published his book. And so they got like a huge amount of money for it. And so she bought Isaac a candle so he could smell for $12. When one of the ghosts asked how much you got, they're like, oh, so you got this much money and you only bought him a $12 candle? So then Nigel's all like, you should split the money with him. Dude, he's a ghost. That don't make no sense. But of course she does it because she's nice. And of course Jay is upset because he said like, this is dumb. He's a ghost and he can't do nothing with the money. But then Isaac ends up buying a bed. And so, like, it's just ridiculous how they, like, treat the men in this series. Then there is Sam's boss, who we only get to meet probably, like, 4 episodes. He gets fired. Why? Because he was watching porn on his computer. Ay, ay, ay. And then they replace him with another guy, only for that guy to be all like, okay, nobody likes your podcast, Sam, and this is going to be your last episode. So he basically forces her to quit her podcast and everything. And I'm just like, why? Why are they doing this? Like in the first season, they had this one neighbor. He's a crappy guy. But it turns out why he's a crappy guy, because his crappy mom, who was picking on Thor's son. But his wife was equally crappy too. So it blended it out. But here, man, it's just like every male just like sucks. They're either like a terrible person or whatever. Because they introduced a lesbian couple in this season. And like they try to make the show make them kind of look like bad guys because they want to chop down that tree, but they didn't want the tree in their yard. It has nothing to do with Sam and everything. And so like that's when like Sass like lied and everything, and it made them just look like it vindicated them. So they no longer look like the bad neighbors who wanted this sentimental tree cut down because Saz lied and everything. And it's just like it was one thing after another, and it just kept happening with the male characters more than that of the female. The male character was just written so terrible. Either they were spineless wimps, they were evil, they were pervy, or they was just straight up mean and everything. And I don't get that. And then it's like, Hetty's like son and Alberta's like boyfriend murdered her behind. And it's just like, really? It had to be two guys that had to murder her. And not only that, but then there's the whole Hetty keeping the secret for a whole year. Now, like I said before, Hetty's a pretty old school type woman, and she was protecting her son. But she still kept that secret from Alberta, who's supposed to be one of her closest friends, for a whole 100 years. And so the ghost took her to ghost court or something like that, where they banished her for a whole year, and she has to wander around outside. She's upset about that, but then here's the thing. They did the same thing to Thor for 3 days because he chopped off Pete's arm, and I think he cut him in half earlier than that. And so he had to walk around outside by himself for 3 days and stuff. So Thor took his punishment, but then when it comes to Hetty's punishment of a year, this is when Alberta finally forgives. Like, Hetty is all like, no, I want my friend back in the house. I don't want her to stay away that long. I want to walk with her. I want to watch TV with her. So because of that, Hetty doesn't pay no type of repercussions for keeping, her son's secret for a whole 100 years. I'm just like, dude. So Thor gets to walk around outside by himself for joking around and chopping off what's his face's hand, and it grew right back within seconds. But she kept her son murdered somebody, and he got away scot free with it. The boyfriend got away scot free, and then Hetty doesn't even get punished for keeping the secret and stuff. And it's such a double standard. And that's why I liked it when Trevor decided, what, if you're so ashamed of me, then we're not dating no more and we're not having sex no more. Only for her to be like, oh, okay, I'm sorry and everything. And then for him and her to start doing it again. It's like, no, man, stick to your guns and everything. And then there's the way when people die, what all the men do in a response. When Flower died by a bear, her boyfriend or friend or whoever he was just took off running, didn't even try to save her. Then when Trevor died of an overdose, his frat buddies, who's also the uncle of Samantha, freaked out, called his uncle to cover the entire thing up, and dumped his body in the lake or river or something like that. I'm just like, what the world? And he's not even pissed at them for doing that to him. He's just like, whatever, they're my friends and everything. And it's just like, what? Then there's the whole Pete situation, Pete's the nicest person there. But then we see him yell and shout at his wife when she's nagging him in a flashback. And so it's kind of like, is that why she cheated on him with his best friend? How often did he yell at her and shout and stuff? And so it's just like, what the world, man? Because when Isaac died, he worried that, his wife, because he was married to trick people. He was worried that that he ruined his wife's life, you know what I'm saying? And because, because he knew he was gay and she knew, but she still married him and she could have had somebody else. But then it turns out that Saz walked in when Isaac was dying. And Saz just wanted to see who would become a new ghost, because Saz is now morbid and everything. And so it turns out that his wife came back by his side and waited till he died. He doesn't remember that. And so it's he realized that she still loved him after she knew what he really was. And so she didn't run off all scared or crazy or dump his body here and there. She actually did a really sweet and sincere type thing. And why couldn't they do that with some of the guys and everything, Because in the first season, remember how I said Thor is very bombastic and everything and loud, but he's meaner a little bit in season 2. Just a little bit when it comes to like the Danish and stuff like that. In the first season, it turns out that he sung to Hetty when she was a little child because she could see him as a ghost. She doesn't remember none of that because when she got older, she just completely forgot or thought she imagined it and stuff. And then in the second season, he's just loud, bombastic, and mean, and hates Christmas and hate the Danish. But then they made him into a nice guy again because when he really wanted to date Flower, he wanted the most perfect date ever. And he even changed who he was. She didn't want him being loud and mean and all this other stuff, so he changed, but it was too much for him. And when he found out that, like, you know, there was a Danish man in the house, he just went like nuts. But he was willing, like, and it's just like, so he was forced to change himself for her. But then she's all like, nah, I just like you the way you are, and blah, blah, stuff like that. So not only was he willing to change himself for her, but then he's willing to go back to who he wants to be because she's like, oh, it's cool, whatever. I like you better that way anyway. And it's like he can't even decide to be who he wants. And it's like you shouldn't change yourself for other people unless you know you're a terrible person and like you want to change for like the better and stuff. And it's just so weird how they wrote men. Now, season 2 finale is bigger than season 1. It's more, well, season 1 was scary because like what's going on with Jay, but in the second season it's like, oh no, we're about to lose a ghost. So as Jay and Sam are in the car talking, Sam looks at the house and freaks out. There's a big glowing white bluish light emanating from the house going into heaven. That means one of the ghosts has now ascended. But who? And that's the biggest cliffhanger ever. It's like, oh no, man, are we about to lose like a main cast member? That's gonna suck because for the most part, a lot of the ghosts have atoned and come to grips with like, you know, that they have nothing, they fulfilled their life and like, you know, there's nothing holding them back. So a lot of the ghosts this season have went through that. So which one ascended? Now, I'm hoping it could be one of the cholera ghosts because they're just down in the basement anyways, or maybe it's Stephanie, the prom ghost girl, or her, or that teenage boyfriend she hangs out with. It's one of them, so I'm hoping to God it's one of them and not one of the main, because I love the main cast, man. It's like, I don't want to see them leave, but then this is a nod to what happened in the UK version. In the 4th season, one of the ghosts stars wanted to leave the show, so they had to have that person ascend and everything. And I'm just like, is it the same situation here, or did they just decide to go cutthroat and just like axe a character and stuff? Now, what do I think of the UK version? I think the UK version is okay. Like, I didn't particularly like the first episode, but the second one was pretty funny. However, I'm not really used to like British humor because, you know, I'm an American and I really don't get to see too much British humor. I see tons of British dramas, but never humor. And so when it comes to the comedies and stuff, you have to watch those on the apps. But you can watch a British drama like anywhere on PBS. And so I'm not really accustomed to it and everything. I do find the American one way more funnier because it's more like fitted for like American comedy and stuff like that. The British one seems more like a drama with a little bit of like humor for whimsy and stuff. My throat is messed up, which is like pretty cool and stuff. It is really interesting to see all the like, you know, similarity between both versions and stuff. Like when I was watching like the first 2 episodes, I'm like, oh, I remember that and I remember that. Oh, that's done differently. So I'm glad the American one didn't just copy and paste everything from like the British show, especially when it came to the ghosts. Some of the ghosts in the American ones is like a combination of like 2 ghosts and like the British one. And like, I do like how the British version has an intro. I do love intros, and I'm tired of like title card sequences in America. I don't know why they had to make the black ghost like the dim-witted one and everything. Like that just sucks. The black dude in the show, he's not too far from the dim-witted ghost, but like at least he's a little bit more capable and everything. It just sucks if you have a show like full of white people. Why the 2 black people have to be the 2 dim-witted ones and stuff? Yeah, sure. I mean, like that black female ghost is like dumber than the caveman. and everything. I'm just like, but now I know why Flower is the way she is. And it's interesting because the one, like, who has no pants is way more differently than the one that has no pants in the American version. I see now that the one in the American version, they just combine him and another ghost. Also, from the first two episodes, it's a bit darker than like, the American one because like the ghost in the UK one literally tried to kill like the two living people and everything, as opposed to the American one where they just wanted to haunt them and everything. And so, like, and then the whole pushing out the window was completely different than what's her name falling down the stairs because that was an accident. But in the UK one, he literally tried to push her out the window and like kill her. Now, it was funny with that one ghost who keeps like jumping out the window, and it turns out it's because her husband pushed her and stuff, which is completely different from the one in the American one. And like, but also it seems like in those first two episodes, the ghost who runs the house is the military dude, which is different from the American one and stuff. So I am glad that they just didn't like copy and paste from the UK one and try to do their own thing. Plus, the UK one is 6 episodes, whereas opposed to the American one is 20 to 22. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.